you're familiar with Jacob in the book of Genesis. What did you people study as a child?
Bible scholars. Lots of Bible scholars.
You had a ladder.
Jacob's ladder. Jacob wrestled with the angel. Oh, yeah, him. Son of Isaac. Jacob's complicated. Because Jacob, we're continuing on with our Bible series, and we're still in Genesis. It's taking a long time to get out of Genesis. I thought I was going to do one book a month, but no, Genesis is so rich. And remember, Genesis is the beginning. It's the start of thought as we know it in our spiritual life. And to look at Jacob, and he had a brother, Esau. They were twins, except Esau was a few minutes older, which made him the eldest son. And the way they are discerned metaphysically is Esau was lover of material, whereas Jacob was the supplanter. He looked beyond the physical. However, he was not the eldest, and so he did not get the birthright. And the birthright of Isaac was the spiritual birthright. Isaac, by this time, was a little sight challenged. And so Jacob, knowing that the spiritual birthright was really the good thing to have, and this is why, how did I phrase the talk title? I can forget. The desire is right, is the means of getting it also right. So Jacob gave his brother like a bowl of rice, a bowl of lentils, I think it was, because his brother was hungry, of the material. He was going to feed his face. Well, and that's when Jacob went in and stole the birthright. His brother's birthright, to have it bestowed upon him. He and his mother were in cahoots with this, because she felt that Jacob was the right one to get the birthright. So Esau was hairy, so they put animal skins on his arms, so that when the father touched his arm, he would feel a hairy arm and think it's his eldest son. And then he gave him the irrevocable birthright. And so Jacob stole his spirituality. He stole his spiritual birthright to lift higher. It would make him more respected. It would make him more in the community, but there was another thing. So you see, he wanted the spiritual. Rather than the material, he wanted the spiritual. But he went about getting it the wrong way. And then he started having dreams. He had one dream where he was climbing. There was a ladder that reached from here all the way to heaven. All the way, not metaphysically. Each rung of the ladder is getting closer to God. Each rung, and we have that. We have our spiritual ladder, our mental ladder, our metaphysical ladder, and we have a new aha. We have a new idea. We have a new thought, and we get a feeling about it. We just get a feeling about it. Oh, by the way, this is all happening with his brother Esau now hating him for having stolen his birthright and wanting to kill him, but he escaped Esau. But he has this dream with the ladder, Jacob's ladder, and he's climbing. And when he woke up, he said, surely, and Genesis, Jehovah was the name for God. Surely Jehovah was in this place, and he was scared. It's like he had a God realization, and it freaked him out. It really freaked him out. And I think many who say, I really want to have this God realization, if they had it, would really freak us out. I remember Carlos, our friend Carlos Anderson, talks about seeing angels, and he said he has seen them. But seeing an angel might freak you out, because the angels he has seen are enormous. He has seen physical angels, and 12 feet tall, walking towards them. And he said, and there's nothing malicious, there's nothing to harm. But if you see a 12-foot winged being walking towards you, it might freak you out. It might just freak you out. I was telling the story at lunch the other day. I remember when my grandmother made her transition. It was it's a big spirit. My first adult spiritual awakening. First spiritual awakening I had since I was a teenager, and I had a couple of them as a teenager, and then I put that in the wayside in favor of Esau's world. I went for fleshly satisfaction for several years. When my grandmother died, I was back in the spiritual, and I remember going a couple of months after she died, because I really felt her presence around me. But when I went home a few months after she died, I went to the cemetery. And I'm there sitting at next to her gravestone, and I'm having a chat, and I'm saying, we called her George, her name was Evelyn, don't ask. And I said, George, if you want to come see me right now, that would be great. I'm sitting there feeling very spiritual, very taken care of, and nobody came. And that's fine. Well, that night I'm at my mother's. I'm in my room at my mother's, and I'm about to turn out the lights. And I see the closet there, and I said, George, don't come now. You will freak me out. That closet door comes swinging open, and I'm going to lose my mind. And so we pick and choose ours. See, I don't want it unless it's on my terms. I want my spiritual awakening, but not necessarily at the cost of my fear. And worse, it's like, would I give up my fear to have an awakening? Will I give up everything I'm afraid of to be assured of what I believe God is? To be assured of light, to be assured of love. Another dream, the next dream that Jacob has. He's wrestling. It depends which account you look at, which Bible. Sometimes it says an angel, sometimes it says a man. But he wrestled, and what he's wrestling with, metaphysically, of course, is God. Again, he's having a wrestling match with God. You know, what's it going to be? I want this, but I want this, and I want this, but I want this. And you can't have both at the same. You can't have heaven and hell at the same time. You can't have love and hate at the same time. You can't. And we're fighting to have that. That's like, I want to lose weight and eat birthday cake at the same time. You know, I want to... Who knows? There's all sorts of things I want at the same time, and they're in contradiction. I can't drive two cars at the same time. I can't praise you and criticize you at the same time. I can't see me and not see me at the same time. I can't pretend and be in reality at the same time. And so I'm wrestling. I'm always wrestling. I'm always wrestling. You know, I cannot post on Facebook my love of God and my hatred of a politician at the same time. I cannot praise my love of God and my hatred of parents at the same time. I cannot be praising and criticizing at the same time. It's one or the other. And so there's a battle, there's a wrestle, there's a tug of war. And I remember when there was almost no tug of war, where it's like, oh, my opinions so don't matter. I'm loving this, surrendering to the peace of God. I am just loving this, surrendering. You know, because I no longer cared if I was right or not. I didn't care about any of that because I had a taste. I had a wonderful taste of peace, a taste of serenity. So I no longer cared if I was ever going to be rich or famous or solvent. I didn't care. I wasn't worried about retirement. I wasn't worried about how long I would live or how quickly I would die. I wasn't worried about who liked me or who didn't like me. Wasn't worried about who I had offended that day or didn't offend that day. Wasn't worried about keeping my job or losing my job. Wasn't worried about any of it. I just wanted to stay in my, not bliss, consciousness. That whatever was coming up, here I am. So God, tell me what to think about this with this exchange between you and me. Okay, now I'm here with you. So God, tell me what to think about this exchange. Give me the right words. Because I knew that as long as I was willing, the right words were going to come. And it didn't matter if you were upset or thrilled. Because it was none of my business. Because we all have friends that don't want to hear words of peace, words of non-resistance. We all have those. We have been that friend too. Who are saying, but you don't understand. You should be upset with what's going on. You should, well, why? Why? Oh, aren't those people annoying who refuse to be upset about the state of affairs? Oh, aren't they just irksome? But you don't understand. David and I have been great teachers for that. On the days, one is just trying to explain why we're upset, and it's like, oh, I don't understand. Why are you upset? Yeah, well, okay, go ahead, be upset, but I'm not going to. And we take turns with it. and it's like, I don't have to be upset. You see, the desire is right, but the means of getting it may not be. Here's a simple child's way of understanding it. The desire to be abundantly wealthy is right. Robbing a bank is not. Is that clear? One would think that's clear. It's not clear to everyone. It's not clear to bank robbers. Bank robbers don't understand that theory. The desire to experience great love is right. Going after other people's spouses is not. And I'm not saying one day you might not be with somebody who's in a relationship now, but pushing that person out of the way is probably not the most karmic path of light to get there. There are so many Bible stories of people trying to get their good. And it's right to want your good. It's not to want somebody else's good. To try to take another's good. It's not right to negate your own while you are admiring someone else's. When I hear, in our cabaret class, we have one singer who is so charismatic, so dazzling, and she's so upset because she's not singing like somebody else. And it's like, no, each of these 6 individuals have such gifts. It's really exciting to see. And when you come to their show in 2 weeks, you will see the gifts that each individual has to bring. It's like having this magnificent head of straight hair and being upset it's not curly. And vice versa. It's like having this magnificent bald head and being upset because you don't have curly or straight hair. It's like being, you're in a relationship and you are loved and you are respected and you are admired and you're upset over what you weigh. You're upset because you're not what you were when you were 20. You're different. But it's like you have everything you were shooting for at 20. And somehow, but I don't have it at 20. I have it at 50. And with 50 come a few additional things we weren't counting on. I want to read something to you. I have a question. No, probably. Don't raise your hand. Just think about it. I don't need a show of hands. But who here believes in God. You don't have to tell me. As opposed to would like to believe in God. We're not talking about God the person. We're talking about God the principle. God the law. Who here feels within them they honestly believe in God the principle? And if you do, would you become willing to apply principle in every aspect, in everything that you do, in the way you see the weather, in the way you see your body, in the way you see your home, in the way you see your past? Would you consider that it would be far more advantageous to you to be integrity with your vision, to let God win the wrestling match, to let peace win the wrestling match, to climb another rung on the ladder even though you're afraid, on that ladder to heaven, to spiritual connectedness, to continue to climb that ladder even though the light gets less and less familiar to your senses. The light gets far more brilliant. And the light, while it seems as if it's going to rob you of something, it's actually going to purify you. It will purify your vision. It will purify your understanding. It will purify everything so that you will not be required to worry about your body, worry about your money, worry about your mother, your father. You will not be expected to worry. In fact, you can expect a divine idea about your body, about your mother and your father and your money and your home and your work and your play. You can begin to expect to be taken care of in thought, in mind, and through a team. You can begin to expect it, for you see, the worry is the resistance to the good. The very thing our confused mind thinks, if I worry enough, I'll figure it out. And it is the worry that pushes it away and blocks it. It just pulls the blind down so that how could I see a solution if I am worried? But in the midst of worry, because I'm sure some of us are not quite prepared to abandon our worry. But in the midst of it, would you reach out to someone in prayer, but I mean genuine prayer? You okay? Resistance just attacked you.
Really? Oh, jeez.
And, in that resistance, to go to someone and say, I want to pray with the willingness to know I am good and I am loved. Imagine that. Because you see, every time we have a thought there's not enough money, what I have the thought is I am not loved. Every time we have the thought someone hurt me, I have the thought I am not loved. Every time we have the thought that the weather is bad, what we're saying is I'm not loved, or at least not loved enough. Every time I have a thought there's not enough good, I'm saying there's not enough love. And I don't say it consciously, but it's like we keep looking for the absence of love instead of the presence of it. And so I looked at this, and after he had his struggle, when he had his fight with, or wrestle with the angel, and it says, they wrestle all night, and at daybreak Jacob says to the man, I will not let you go unless you bless me. Jacob said that to the man, I will not let you go unless you bless me. And the man said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." And he said, "Your name shall no more be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with man and have prevailed." And there he blessed him. Obviously, now it says here that the wrestling match occurs in the mind. And Jacob represents the person we now are. And the man represents the higher self we can become. The struggle is the effort it takes to change, to grow, to improve. The struggle ceases when we accept the blessing of our higher self. That blessing always takes the form of a change for the better, a change of name. Now, do you hear this? The blessing always takes the form of a change for the better. That's a promise. You got a promise at Unity today. The blessing always takes the form of a change for the better, a change of name. Because you see, when it goes to something better, you're going to call it a different name. You will call this situation a different name when you see the transformation. You will call yourself a different name. You will not call yourself, "I am unloved." You will call yourself, "I am loved." And I am loved. So it says, Jacob, the supplanter, is transformed into Israel, which means a prince with God. And this represents a very significant change in attitude and in level of consciousness. This is the change from a mental manipulator for self-serving purposes, Jacob the trickster, into an intelligent willingness to commit oneself to God and truth. The supplanter has been supplanted, not by another, more clever person, but our own higher level of consciousness. So, take it in. Take it in. These are promises. These are such wonderful promises. I'm going to read this paragraph to you again. Jacob, the supplanter, is transformed into Israel. This represents a very significant change in attitude and level of consciousness. This is the change from a mental manipulator for self-serving purposes. And I'm going to tell you, we have a lot of high-minded thoughts that are actually quite self-serving. You know, "Oh, I want to help this person." A lot of times I want to do this so I don't have to feel a certain way. That's self-serving. Would you be willing that this person has a great life and you have a great life? Because that is the natural state. That is the law. That is application of the law. It doesn't make, I don't have to figure out how they could be happy. You know, as David's talking about this one. Would we be willing that this one be happy, this being what we're speaking of, and we be happy, and we don't have to show her in order to, we don't have to trick her into being happy. We don't have to trick ourselves into being happy. There is no figuring out. There's just willingness. I am willing that you be happy. But we see, he and I'd have to stop our conversations about how we're not happy with how she has been. We would have to forego our misery and our fun in the conversation. Because there's a certain thrill in talking about how aggravating someone is. There's a certain tickle in it. And it's like, oh, I'd have to abandon that. Am I ready to do that? I don't know. And so you have to look at it that way. So, change from mental manipulator for self-serving purposes into an intelligent willingness to commit oneself to God and truth. You know, you hear me say God and truth, not religion. I don't ask anyone here ever to commit to religion. I ask you to commit to what you know to be true. I ask myself to commit to what I know to be true. Some days the willingness is greater than others. I'd like today to be the day the willingness is greater. And everything is changed not by a clever person, but by our own higher level of consciousness. We have an affirmation in Unity. It's our primary affirmation that says there is only one power and one presence as the universe and as my life, God the good, omnipotence. What did you hear in that?
only one. God one.
Okay, what else?
There's only one.
One. It doesn't say there is God and. There is only one power and one presence as the universe and as my life. God the good, omnipotence. If that is the case, does anybody here believe that's the truth? Okay, you're allowed to raise your hand. Okay then, if you believe that, then you can't scream about what's bad. You can say, I feel this way about this, but doggone it, no, it's not the truth. I know it's not the truth. I feel this way about it, and I want to see it in truth. I need help. And you will get an idea on how to see it in truth, and you may notice you wrestle with, but I don't want to see it in truth. I thought I did. I really don't want to. Anyway, you said, but no. Seeing it in truth has got to be better, so I will give up that wrestle. I will give up that until I am blessed. And so, let's get ready. We'll say it first, and I'd like you to say it with me, those of you who care to. There is only one power and one presence as the universe and as my life. God the good, omnipotence. Would you say it with me? There is only one power and one presence as the universe and as my life. God the good, omnipotence. Let's say it again. There is only one power and one presence as the universe and as my life. God the good, omnipotence. And one more time. There is only one power and one presence as the universe and as my life. God the good, omnipotence.